I believe in the power of determination by Andrew Rose. I believe in the power of determination, the power of knowing a task, and the power to do it even if you don't have the ability or the strength to do it. My finest hour started on September 13th, 2010, on my 19th birthday, when I left my home to go to the International Alert Academy in Big Sandy, Texas. They're a training facility that trains young men to become men through hard work and thorough discipline, similar to what the military does, but without all the fighting and weapons. 59 young men volunteered to give up 2 months of their lives to train with the Air Land Emergency Resource Team, which trained us for disaster response and assistance with government agencies. I put it in my heart that no matter what happened, the only reasons I would go home was either through graduation or an injury that prevented me from finishing. My squad was okay from the start, but as the days went on, we started getting on each other's nerves. I guess that's what happens when you live within 20 feet of your squad most of the day. My squad consisted of Nikolai Morrissey, the crazy Russian who was adopted by a family in Oregon. Judah Coleman, the problem causer in our group. I was surprised that he would want to cause problems and make others work harder, not better. Luke Schneiderman, the neutral man in most of the problems that occurred during our time there. Robert Bacon, the weakest link in our chain, but he was still a good man. Clark Miller was the ambassador of the group between squad mates. And finally, Stephen Grunwald, my bunkmate and biggest friend during the training. We were the slowest group to almost everything, not because we were slow, but because we had problems working together. We were a ticking time bomb ready to explode. When we failed our PT test on the third week, I was put on a strict bland diet, and so did most of the other trainees. It did not hit me until the next day, where I emotionally broke for the entire day. I told everyone at home I would finish, but the days never seemed to get any better or go by fast enough. I was sitting on my bed in that barracks, thinking of whether or not to go home. I promised everyone I'd be home in mid-November, but the challenges up till then was too hard for me to pass without a question. It was in that moment that God gave me the strength to finish the training, no matter how hard it was. With the unit always rising before the sun every morning to do PT, I performed every single push-up, every single sit-up, every single squat, every single run, every single hike, and everything that they had planned for me, with what energy I had and what God gave me. The challenges of the day before were always easier than the challenges of the next day, but I never gave up on finishing my goal. Everything was going great until the Monday of the 5th week, about an hour before dinner, when our squad was taken outside. As we stood at attention, we wondered what was going on. Captain Keon Pendergast, the commanding officer of basic training, stood before us, his eyes filled with sorrow, and his words cut to every heart. Robert Bacon is being sent home for poor performance, he said. The news devastated the squad. We were over halfway done, and we had just lost our first member. He was not the first person to go home in the unit, but he was our first squad member too. It was not only a wake-up call for some of us, but it was also a rallying point for the rest of us to pull up the slack where he had left off. I had to double time my quadruple time for the rest of the training now. When we went home for Christmas break, most of us said we'd come back for the additional training that started in January. For those who came back for the additional 10 weeks of training, we got certified in chainsaw work, open water diving, advanced open water diving, and search and recovery diving by the man who wrote the book. Counseling, structural and wildland firefighting, and high-angle rescue systems. We went on multiple deployments, including Trenton, Florida, for community work, Buffalo Gap, Texas, for wildfire prevention, and Birmingham, Alabama, for tornado relief last May, and many others. After those 10 weeks of training, I stayed for an additional 11 weeks of training, where I got 13 hours of flight time in those 11 weeks due to bad weather, while finishing my ground school in those 11 weeks with the best FAA written exam of the 3 flight trainees that was there, with a 90, with an additional 40 hours of flight time in the 7 weeks after summer break. After those 10 weeks of training, I stayed for an additional 11 weeks of training, where I got 13 hours of flight time in those 11 weeks due to bad weather, while finishing my ground school in those 11 weeks with the best FAA written exam of the 3 flight trainees that was there, with a 90, with an additional 40 hours of training in those 7 weeks after summer break. With so much done in such little time, most people do not believe me when I tell them what I've gone through. I know if you would have told me 2 years ago what would happen, I would not believe you either. All I know is God placed in me a desire to see a problem in front of me and take it on from an impossible challenge to a conquered challenge within a very short time. A few people have given up, but I believe in the power of determination, the power to see a problem in my way and to face it head on with unrelenting passion and determination until it is done. I know that there is a problem that I must solve and no one else, to do it with little or no help at all. With everything I have gone through and everything I will go through, I believe in the power of determination.